Record on this computer. All right, so we're now recording Zoom, which means we are live on YouTube.
Hello, YouTube.
Howdy,
Now you get to
YouTube.
see how we do our count in.
Yes, because we're extremely lazy and we're not going to edit this video, so we are going to do our normal audio count in. Okay, count me in, D. Cole.
And 3, and 2, and 1, and click.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of No Plans to Merge. I'm your host, Caleb Porzio.
I'm your other host, Dan Colburn.
Today's episode is brought to you by Walt Disney World.
I wish I knew like the sound of like the pre-Disney movie jingle where they have like the Tinkerbell flying into the castle thing.
And then it's like right, because like it's not the full
When You Wish Upon a Star.
Right, that's it. It's not the full thing. It's just right. Like, doesn't it do that? Like,
Wait, no, that's the Windows XP sound.
Yeah, right.
It's like a combination of When You Wish Upon a Star and the Windows XP sound.
Dude, I'm hearing
it.
That's it.
Caleb.
Yep.
How you doing?
Doing really well.
You're in Florida.
I'm in Florida.
You're in front of a set of I Love Lucy style his and hers beds.
Right. Exactly. Yes. That is so funny. That's what happened. That's crazy. Why did they do that? So when they had the beds separate on I Love Lucy, because like they're telling America that like couples don't have sex and they sleep in separate beds.
Well, you just couldn't refer to sex even like that. Like you just couldn't acknowledge on TV that sex existed.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It wasn't like there's a law against actors and actresses like being in the same bed on set or something like that.
Well, I'm sure that was part of it.
Right.
I think there was
all
like
kind of the same deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was just like lewdness laws or whatever.
But there wasn't like it wasn't a social more that you couldn't have you couldn't sleep in the same bed as a couple. That was like the social norm, right?
Yeah, I think
but on
that would
TV,
be the norm.
Right. So even at that time, it had to appear odd. Like, what? Right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I maybe you were supposed to feel bad about it. Like we do sleep in the same bed, but like we'll never show a guest our bedroom.
Yeah.
Because then the guest would see that we have a single bed, and then they would know that we have sex, even though they do see our 11 children right now.
They would see the rosary next to the bed and know where it all comes from.
Yeah.
Question, thought. Oh, this is another one of those like middle school lunchroom bits.
Oh, lunchroom lies.
Lunchroom lies. That I'm just remembering right now.
We need a jingle for lunchroom lies.
Yeah, can you make one on the spot?
Yeah, we can't even have a jingle for the show, so no.
Okay. So that like it wasn't I Love Lucy, but one of the first shows where they shared a bed, like Dick Van Dyke or something like that. I don't know. Like, oh, did you know that the actors and actresses had to always have one leg on the floor, had to have one foot on the floor? Did you hear that?
No,
that was a bit that I've just heard at the lunch table. It's like that's a perfect example of one of those things. It's like, did you know that?
Isn't like 1 foot on the floor like a classic like parents rule for if you have like a friend of the opposite sex over and you're like studying in your room or whatever? It's like keep the door open and 1 foot on the floor.
Oh, is that right? I mean, I
think so.
I mean, you're putting them on the bed even with 1 foot on the floor. I mean,
yeah, a lot can happen.
Likely a single bed.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are as flexible as I am, but
no, I mean, you could have 1 foot on the floor and your foot on the other floor.
And your 1 foot on the floor. You know what I'm saying?
For the listener who can't see how giant Daniel's legs are, they're the size of what are they? They're like, what would you say the size of? Like, well, what's the size of your shin? It's like a hockey stick.
The size of my shin?
Like a basketball hoop.
The size of my shin is probably like the length of like a child's lacrosse stick.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny. It is.
But yeah. Yep. So you're presumably in an Airbnb in Florida?
Yeah. Yep.
For your annual Florida times?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
How's Florida? Is it nice and warm?
It's great. Actually, it's like 60 right now, which is chilly.
It's unfair.
Chilly.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, because it's been 80.
Is that real difficult for you?
It is. Because it's 15 at the house that we own, the apartment
Hmm.
that we rent in
Yeah.
Buffalo.
I was like, whoa, developments,
No,
owning a
no
house, huh?
development. It's just like a way to distinguish the two. Um, and yeah, so it's 15 degrees, and then here, we got here and it was like 80s, which is awesome. So
All right,
yeah,
Caleb, there's one question that I know the listener wants to know.
tell me,
Did you
ask
buy
me.
any GameStop stock?
No, I did not.
You know about it though.
Come on,
All
Deke.
right. Listen, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know
Daniel.
if like maybe the mustachians look down their nose at the whole thing and they say like, "Oh, this is only for fucking plebs who, who don't who haven't saved 90% of their income for the last 25 years."
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting because I did actually just open. I'm not ready to get off the Florida thing yet because I really want to give GameStop its due. I
Mhm.
just bought a canoe.
A canoe.
I bought a canoe.
I love a canoe.
Yeah, because I thought that they're better than kayaks. You
Uh-huh.
know, like I thought like kayaks are a trend.
Yeah.
Have been for
Canoes
whatever
are
10
calmer
years.
than kayaks.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying like it's less, less going on, less exciting.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah,
trying to like be stressed out at all. A canoe
yeah.
is a less
Canoe, and
stressed
it
out boat.
seems like it to me. It always seemed like, oh, canoe. Like I've been on canoe trips with like scouting stuff my whole life.
Yeah.
It's like canoe. Ooh, kayak though, like
Mhm.
kayak. So I
Mhm.
bought a kayak and I didn't love it because one, you can't compete with a canoe at all. I would go on like we went on a canoe trip and I had my kayak and my brother had a kayak and we were just dying the whole time trying to keep up with these canoes because there's
Hmm.
just like so much power behind two people in a very long vessel.
Right, right. So you could compete with one guy in a canoe.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
you'd probably take them to school, but yeah, like if you're two guys in kayaks and there's two guys in a canoe, they're gonna go faster than
yeah,
you.
for sure. Well, it's just
Unless you
twice
have
as
like a
much
racing
They
canoe
have
or
twice as
something
many
ridiculous.
arms.
They do. They do. So anyway, and like that also sitting in them is very uncomfortable, you know?
Kayaks.
Yes. For
Okay.
the inflexible like me who
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like
Because you're
neck
like at
issues.
like a 90-degree angle all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I can't sit like that on the ground, you know?
Did you have one of those fancy like back support seats?
Yeah, I think they all do.
Oh, okay. And that was still uncomfortable.
Yeah. For
Like
me.
you didn't feel like you could like lean into that back seat and get
Yeah,
some
you sort
relief.
of get a little bit of that vibe for sure.
Uh huh.
Bend your knees a little bit, push on a little foot
Yeah,
stops.
but you can't bend your knees very much.
You can't bend your knees very much. And I just have like neck issues and it's
Mm-hmm.
not good for me to be
Yeah.
like laying down and exerting a bunch of upper body muscle.
Sure.
So anyway, but
Yeah.
canoes solve all the problems. So I that's it. I got a canoe. There's
Mm-hmm.
like mission number 1 in Florida, got a canoe, just took it out and it was a great time.
That does sound like a great
Just
time.
want you to know that.
Did you see anything cool while you're out on your canoe?
Just stuff, just birds, Florida birds.
Birds,
It was in the
birds,
morning.
Florida
The
birds.
evening wildlife is way better. There's
I
so many more birds.
I got a I got a I got a friend who is a or is in school to be like an ornithologist or something.
Okay.
Um,
What's that?
but like a bird studier.
Hmm.
He's studying birds in school right now. He was like out of school for a long time, like working construction and stuff, and was like, I've always wanted to be a bird guy.
Yeah.
Um, but and now he's doing that. I don't know what he's going to do for money, but he's going to know a lot about birds.
Interesting. If you could make a board game. Have you seen Wingspan? That board game?
Oh, I've heard about it.
It's a good time. Um, it's great, and it is all about birds, and
Yeah,
like bird experts made it.
hell yeah,
Um, and it's awesome. My family loves birds, um, and we played it, and it was great, and it's
awesome.
so beautiful.
I'm making a game. I want to talk about it, but I want to talk about GameStop first. Do you have more Florida to get through?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
Okay, go hit me with the Florida.
Ask me a poignant question.
About Florida? Why are okay? Here's a question. So normally your reason for being in Florida is that your wife is shooting weddings at Disney.
Right. That was the
Presumably there are
first reason.
way less weddings at Disney right now.
Yes, there
Um,
are.
how is that affecting your being in Florida?
It's fine. It's totally good. We the first year the reason we came down, quote unquote, was like we could justify blowing a bunch of money on an Airbnb for 3 months
Mm-hmm.
because or 2 months because the Disney wedding paid for it.
Right.
And then the next year, the Disney wedding didn't pay for it, but she had already kind of established a little. She didn't have a Disney wedding that year,
Mm-hmm.
but she had established like a client base for Disney photography and would do a ton of that.
Yeah.
Bunch of cool stuff. And then this year, none of that. But like, I don't
But
know.
like whatever,
I
you
make
just
enough money now
dip
that it.
into that launch or make VS
Yeah,
Code awesome
exactly. Make
money
VS
and
Code
just
Awesome is paying for
yeah.
this trip. But now it doesn't matter as much because I'm not a poor person anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And
I don't think
yeah,
you were ever. I've never known you when you were a poor person.
no, yeah, but like
But
I can at least flash like the income reported on my taxes, which is like $36,000 or something like
right.
that for the year,
Uh-huh.
Which is pretty low.
You
So yeah,
yeah, you definitely you're way more liquid right now than you've ever been.
exactly. Yeah, yep. But yes, you're right. The lifestyle hasn't changed. Nothing really changed. But this place actually, no, we were staying in like a shack before.
Yeah, I recall.
Yeah, it
You
was a
almost
shack.
like rented a timeshare, didn't you?
Yeah, sort of something like that.
You were like
Oh,
about
I
to.
almost bought a shack.
You almost bought a shack.
We were gonna buy
Right.
a shack.
That's what it was. You
Yeah,
almost
because
bought a
they're like
shack.
$30,000.
Yeah, who
I was
doesn't want
gonna
a
like
shack?
buy it on the spot. Be like,
Yeah.
let's just buy one of these shacks. But so the place we're in now is like a condo. I'm in one of the 3 bedrooms that all have their own bathroom, full
Hmm.
bath. It's
Wild.
crazy. But we're having like
What do you
family
do with
come and
all those
hang out.
other bedrooms?
I know. Well, for one, there's multiple bathrooms, so wherever I am, I just go to the closest bathroom.
Anywhere I roam, where I lay my head is home. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Anywhere I roam, I lay my, you know,
Mm-hmm. My
um,
leavings.
I lay an egg, and
Where
I
I
lay a
lay an
log,
egg is home. That's funny.
drop a few
Um,
eggs. So
yeah,
yeah, so we're here. I highly recommend if you live in a cold place, just go live somewhere else that's
yeah,
warm for a while.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huge mood booster.
Huge mood, huge move.
Yep. And we've been
Um,
to Disney, and it's totally different. And we don't ride rides. We just go around and eat food at Epcot.
mhm.
And everybody wears a mask, and it's a little weird, but whatever. So
What
okay, I'm done with Florida.
vibes?
Tell
GameStop,
me, tell me about GameStop. Oh
Wall
no,
Street
GameStop. Okay, I know
bets,
about GameStop.
Wall
Sorry,
Street bets.
yeah,
You
Wall
tell
Street
me
bets.
about it. So for the
What about it?
I mean, okay, so everyone who listens to our podcast already knows about it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Um, did you make any moves?
So this is the problem. This is the problem with being a mustachian who just
Hmm.
like buys into the whole Vanguard index fund, set it and forget it
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, the
Is
whole
like,
Warren Buffett, who's now like only the eighth wealthiest person in the world.
yeah,
So
he's old news.
yeah, old news.
But it is interesting that
You know who's the wealthiest person in the world now?
Elon Musk,
Elon Musk, and you know why?
because I don't know, because of Tesla stock price.
Yeah, which is completely overvalued by Wall
For
Street
sure.
bets people,
Yeah.
right? Like the reason he is rich is because of this.
My sister said something like she just said something about like, oh, and the rich, oh, and Elon Musk, and something about
Hmm.
like, the richest guy in the world, and how come he can't, whatever. And I don't know, it's just the first time that I actually like follow the richest guy in the world.
Hmm.
I'm like, he's not like, this doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Like he could
it's not
not access
like,
that money if he
yeah,
wanted to.
exactly. It's not like
Yeah,
his pile of cash in his backyard just grew and he can just go with a pitchfork and fork it out
yeah.
to people.
Whereas, but arguably, like Bezos has the same thing, right? His wealth is also because of his Amazon stock,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But he could liquidate,
Yeah.
and Elon couldn't,
Yep.
right? Because if Elon liquidates, the price like plummets because
Yeah.
that price is built on nothing. Amazon has like a pretty serious business with like pretty stable margins, pretty, everything's solid at Amazon.
Yep.
So if Bezos decided to liquidate half of his stock, like it'd cause a small drop, but I think he'd be fine.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It is very different. Somebody's wealth being in the company. It's so
Hmm.
different.
Hmm.
So different. But anyway, yeah, Elon, Wall Street bets. Oh, so the problem is because I bought into this whole, set it and forget it, stay the course, whatever, all that like anti-stock picking stuff.
Hmm.
I actually I opened Robinhood account at one point just for fun, just to see it. Never bought
Hmm.
anything. Don't even
Hmm.
know if I have the account or could get into it.
Hmm.
Um, and I have a TD Ameritrade account, but I
Sure.
haven't used it since basically the day I opened it.
Hmm.
So something like this happens, and I can't do anything. So I have made
So
0 moves because
here
of that.
is,
So
I've
you
made
tell
one
me.
move. I've made one move,
Okay.
and it is this. So earlier in the pandemic, I made a bunch of money on office chairs. Well, not a bunch, but I
On
made some
office
money on
chairs?
office chairs. Yeah. So I basically was like, a bunch of people are going to be setting up home offices. I bet Herman Miller and Steelcase are going to do really well.
Oh, nice.
And so
Dude, good one.
I put some
What,
money into office chairs, and then
what did you just like honestly just like think
yeah.
and then
Well,
your
I saw
thought
that
was
Logitech was doing well because of like all the peripherals and webcams and
okay.
keyboards and stuff that they were selling. I
Yeah.
was like, well, if Logitech's doing well, that means home office stuff is doing well,
Yeah.
which means that Herman Miller and Steelcase are going to do well.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is my only ever like day trade type scenario I've ever done. I
Okay.
put in like $500 or something, and I basically like just day traded it. Like I bought the dip, I sold the peak, and like
Cool.
I like basically on a day-to-day basis made like on average probably like 6% a day for a
Okay.
while.
Cool.
And so I turned this money into more money.
How much
So
money did you
anyway,
turn it into?
I don't know, like $800 or something like that.
Word.
So I've made like pretty good returns on this $500, and I was
Yeah.
just like having a good time.
Yeah.
So now I've got this extra money, and I was like, I'm sticking. So I missed the initial buy, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if I buy GameStop right now, it's going to crash over the weekend. It's not going to be there on Monday,
Okay.
whatever. So what I need to do is say, what are the boats that people are going to go to when they flee the sinking ship of GameStop,
Great.
right? And most people, like the big money investors, are just going to go back into their traditional investments, right?
Okay.
But there are going to be a bunch of people who still have money or made a bunch of money on the first buy who are going to want to stick it somewhere. So AMC is the obvious second contender.
Uh-huh.
And then I made a little bit of a bet on the Blockbuster liquidation company
Oh, no
that
way.
is liquidating. So basically, there's a company that exists to just like sell off the remaining assets of Blockbuster.
Funny.
Shares are like 9 cents. It's like 9 cents a share or something.
Yeah.
So I bought like $100 of Blockbuster and like $200 of AMC, and I'm just gonna see what happens. And if I lose all this money, it came for free from the office chairs anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
who cares?
That's
And
great, dude.
yeah, it's super fun.
That's cool. How much is
I've
so you bought AMC when on
I
Friday?
bought all this today.
Oh, you
So
bought all this
I've
today. Okay.
yeah. So
Gotcha.
basically, my thing is like, this is my pitch: is GameStop is gonna die over the weekend,
Uh-huh.
which is gonna revitalize AMC
Uh-huh.
and Blockbuster because people are going to be looking for the next stock to do it with,
Yeah.
right? And AMC is already the clear like next stock.
Yeah.
But I think Blockbuster is like a clear like is going to be the next AMC to the, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And they're also doing it with
Interesting.
BlackBerry. BlackBerry
Yeah.
is like another one that they're pumping, but
And
like I
Nokia.
don't know. Yeah, I didn't buy any
These
either of those.
companies so funny.
It's so funny.
It's so like
It's
there could
so
be like
funny.
memes around like what company is next. Like, you know,
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like just like these
Right.
companies that you
Well, and it's funny because it's like a death sentence for these companies in the
I
long
know.
run.
Or
Like,
not, I mean AMC is like I guess like they've done really well with it and turned the ship around. Like they're basically like they're COVID proof because
yeah.
I don't understand how child abduction. Oops. Like who could be calling me at this hour?
Yeah.
Um
A silver Nissan Altima.
when you when I'm talking like I'm getting a little like fuzz, you're not getting that, right?
I
That's
don't
just my
think so.
headphones or something. Okay. I got a whole new rig right now, you
Uh-huh.
know. This is my mobile rig.
You might have dirty power in Florida.
I wouldn't doubt it. There's
Mhm.
cockroaches in the wires for
Yeah.
sure. Actually this internet is like 400 megabits per second.
Nice.
It's
Is it
ludicrous
Spectrum?
compared. I have no idea. It's just nutso compared to home.
Compared to Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. Everything just the cold,
Hmm.
the electrons just are kind of
They
dormant.
move so slow. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So yeah. Companies, Nokia, that's cool. Dude, are you I mean like so you thought about it on Friday about buying GameStop and didn't?
Yeah. Well, I thought about it the last several days. I've thought about doing it and haven't
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm just gonna do it because these ones are cheaper. Right? Because I'm not using obviously you can't use Robinhood right now, so
Yeah.
it would have to be something where you have to buy like full shares of the thing,
Yeah.
unlike the people who use Robinhood who could buy like a tenth of a share of GameStop or whatever.
Right.
Right. So I'm not gonna buy like a $350 share of GameStop, right? And just like
Yep.
put all my eggs in that basket with my money. But
Yep.
AMC is like, you know, between $12 and $15, uh and Blockbuster's like between like 9 and 15 cents, right? So it's just like, all right, I'll just like throw a bunch of random money into this and like see what happens, you
Yep.
know. And when I lose it all, I can go back to
Chair.
manipulating the office chair market with
Yeah.
my big tweets.
Shorting Herman Miller. Um, that's great. And what was I going to say? I just opened a public account. You heard of that? That
Mm-mm.
app called Public.
Nope.
Um, I think it'll be the destination for the Robinhood fleers.
Okay.
I think they will flee to Public. I know who's on Public right now. It's either Ian Landsman or the Barometrics guy, um,
Spigford.
Josh Pigford.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Spigford.
Spigford, is that his handle?
I think so.
Okay. Um, that's how I found out about it, and then I started like, oh, so Casey Neistat, he's an investor in
Mhm.
Public, and so he like tweeted something
Well
like if
then,
you're
well then we know that it's not going to be a successful company because I think Casey and I said has invested in 3 companies in his life and they were all terrible.
really, what are the other ones?
He started well, I don't know if invested in. He's probably invested in a lot of things, but he started a company called Beam that was like a video news app that he sold to CNN for a
Oh,
ton of money and then they
I
killed it
remember
immediately
that.
because it was bad.
I remember that.
He's like started multiple companies that he like exited on profitably and
Yeah,
then they immediately went out of business. He's
dude.
just like taking money from
Yeah,
companies to.
the Beam thing's really fuzzy, but I remember
Yeah.
following that at the time. So okay, yeah. So he anyway. So I also saw he's tweeting about it, and his tweets like, while all you Robinhood suckers are sitting there, crying whatever, like
Hmm.
I'm getting Bill Gates rich,
Hmm.
because you can still trade on Public. It only went down for like an hour and a half, the
Okay.
trading of those. So anyway, so I opened a Public account because I think that'll be, and it looks it. They have some philosophical differences, like they're anti day trading on,
Uh-huh.
which I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means you like can't trade in the same day, like you can't like buy
They
and sell
can't
stuff.
resell the
Yeah,
same stuff.
I don't know what exactly them just saying we don't allow day trading means. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting if it was like you have to hold your position for at least 7 days or something. That'd be
yeah,
kind of interesting.
yeah. So there's that. There's also there's no buying on margin, and there's no like at whatever you'd call abstractions like shorts,
Hmm.
calls, puts, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Derivatives.
any options, yeah, any derivative, yeah. So yeah, so I signed up with that because I think that that'll be something where people are at, and I just want the option basically.
Hmm.
Like I still don't really plan to do anything, but I'm like, it would really suck if something like this came around again and I actually wanted to act on it and I couldn't.
Right. Right.
Like even if I don't think I would act on any of this right now, but if I wanted to, I can't, which
Yeah. Yeah.
isn't a good feeling.
You have a TD Ameritrade account though. You could.
They stopped. They're probably, are they back now?
That's where I bought my AMC and my Bliac.
Oh, cool. Honestly, I haven't used it in so long. I
But
don't even
I never
know.
tried to buy GameStop. I don't know. They might have stopped GameStop.
Gotcha. I did just, I was reminded I had a TD Ameritrade account because I just used this tool that Taylor tweeted out that
A
I am
Taylor
now
tweeted
going to
tool.
recommend, called Leave Me Alone
Uh huh.
app. Um, it's so cool. You hook it up with your Gmail account.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes
Um,
through and finds all the bullshit
yeah,
and
and
presses the
I've used
unsubscribe
like
button for
Unroll
you.
Me and stuff, but this
Yeah.
is different. Where like this does, it scours every newsletter and it ranks them in order of like how often you don't read them, like how many
Oh,
unreads,
nice.
and how frequent the emails come to you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like there's like some that are like 24 per month, and you
Oof.
haven't read any of them. It's stupid stuff.
Oof.
So this app is awesome.
And it finds
Taylor,
the unsubscribe button for you.
yes, it still has a few kinks to work out. Like I think probably half of mine or a third of them came back as like, we don't know if it worked. So maybe click this button and tell us that it did or
Right.
didn't, and tell us
So
what
they
happened.
probably only understand the workflow for things that come from like known transactional email providers.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
So they
possible.
probably understand like how to unsubscribe from SendGrid, how to unsubscribe from MailChimp,
Right.
how,
I'm sure they,
but
yes.
if
And
they
then
hit like a
also,
custom unsubscribe page, they might not know what
right.
happened.
I think they have a system that might just be their staff or the one guy working on it. that it might just be his like internal process to add, like I'm picturing, he has some PHP class called like workflows where he can add a
Hmm.
new workflow for this domain, and like this is the
Yep.
flow, whatever. So like you can tell that the app is learning. Like it'll
Hmm.
send you a screenshot. It'll show you a screenshot of like, hey, we don't know what happened here. Can you look at it and tell us?
Oh yeah, yeah, and then it'll just know that like, okay, this is one that doesn't require a second click, or like,
Right. Yeah. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
so. There's a few different
Isn't there a
flows that
law though now that it can't require a second click? That's what I heard.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like, because some of them are like discourse,
Hmm.
discourse server or Twitter stuff. Like there's things that you kind of have to like log in to your notification preferences.
Right.
Some things are just like, this is just a newsletter. I gave him my email once. I should be able to one click. But
Hmm.
other things are like, you have to log into their stupid like notification setting
Hmm.
thing. So I'm saying all this to say that leave me alone. Why did
Rules.
I start saying this? Because I saw
You found
TD
your TD
Ameritrade in
Ameritrade.
there when I did it. But let me tell you super quick while I'm rambling about a cool monetization scheme for Leave Me Alone.
Hmm.
It's a really cool app, really well done. People should check it out. You just the flow to get in is really nice. They walk you through how to do it, and you do it.
Hmm.
It takes no time. Then you're in there and you start just unsubscribing from stuff. And after like 5 or something, it's like, oops, you ran out of credits. Purchase more credits. It's not a monthly fee or
Ooh,
anything. And you use 1 credit for 1 unsubscribe, and it's like 50 credits, $2.50, and then a
nice.
Stripe single line credit card. And
Ooh,
I'm
you'll
like,
have to see
dude, no
it.
problem.
Yeah,
Oh, I just flashed my credit card on the YouTube. I
it
don't.
was
I
too
think it was too
fast.
quick. Okay,
Yeah.
funny. We're on YouTube now.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah. Anyway, I was like, it's cool to see a different monetization strategy out there, and I think
Yeah,
it's a good one.
you
I
like to
paid.
see it.
I'd love to see it. Love to see it.
I mean, it's kind of the strategy of like mobile games that get you to buy additional plays or whatever.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, in this case, I like it. In those cases, I hate it.
right, because there's actual long-term value to the credits, whereas the game plays are ephemeral and gone as soon as you use them.
That's true.
Right, but like if you unsubscribe from a newsletter now, it's gone forever.
It's also like the alternative, like the convention in SaaS apps is
Is
a
like
monthly
unlimited
subscription,
unsubscribes. Right.
right? That you would pay a subscription for. And I'm like, I need
But
another
this is a terrible
subscription.
app for subscriptions because
Yeah,
you
because you're
get
done
no
with it
additional
after.
value after the
Yeah.
first interaction.
Yep.
It's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. So,
Cool.
word man.
Word, man.
So you're working on a game.
I'm working on a game. So I don't know. Did we talk about the game on the show?
I don't know.
I don't think we talked about it much. But anyway, we're making a social game in Discord. So I have a Discord channel that is all of my friends from college, and we all play video games together and stuff. And my friend John Drexler, he makes
JD.
JD. He makes board games. He makes card games. He makes all sorts of games. He's obsessed with designing games. Um, and he basically was like, it's COVID. We can't hang out with anyone. And I can't play test any of my games because I normally like play test with people in person or like at the board game store. I'll go and like run play test nights with
Yeah.
people.
He does
I
that?
can't, yeah, yeah.
That's really cool.
But I can't like play test any of my games. So I want to make a game that I can play test during COVID and um, basically is developed in this Discord by the people in this Discord and then is played in Discord by the people in this Discord. So we can basically develop and play test it internally. So that was like his thing. We all love Survivor. All of us do. We talk about it all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so Survivor is, if you haven't seen the show, it's basically a social game where it's all about managing secrets and alliances and voting people off, and making sure that you know who's voting for who every round so that you don't accidentally get voted off and you're on the right side of the numbers and, all of this stuff. So we took a lot of influence from that, and we just completed our second playthrough of the game. The game ultimately will have a computer moderator. So the game will be moderated by software. But for the first two playtests, we used a human like GM to like moderate the game. So the first game, John was the GM. Then we made some rule changes and tweaks. Then the second game, I was the GM so that John could have a chance to play. In the meantime, I've been developing the software that will run the game in the future. As we're locking in certain mechanics, like we're able to start building them.
Cool.
Anyway, it's really fun. And so basically the way the game works is you have, like this round we had 9 players playing, right? So you have 9 players playing. The players, there are rankings from number 1 to number 9, right? And so every player is assigned an alias. And that alias is the name of some sort of an animal, right? So
Cool.
I'm Daniel, but my alias is Dog.
That's fun.
So anytime information is shared about something that happened to me,
Yeah.
it will be shared like Dog received 2 votes
Yep.
or something like that. So the first thing that happens is that we do a quiz on day 1. So it's a week-long game. Every day there is a vote. So there are 7 rounds in the game. So on day 1, we do a quiz and we say, you have 24 hours to submit a list of everyone's name and alias corresponding. And then we will rank you based on how well you did on that quiz. And those will be the initial rankings that the game starts with.
Cool.
So there's like an incentive to share information with people, to share your alias with some people so that you have better information, so that you do well on the quiz, so that you get ranked higher. But then you're giving away that information.
Right.
That
What's the
will
point of a
later be
high
used
ranking?
against you. So the winner is the person who is ranked first place at the end of day 7.
So the way to win the game is to know who everybody is.
Yeah, so you need to know who everybody is to win the game. And then, I mean, so far the people who have won the game have known who everyone was.
Fun.
But every day at noon Eastern, the votes are calculated. So everybody receives 1 vote every round, and you can put that vote on someone else, and it's basically a down vote in rank. So if I'm in second place and I receive 1 vote, I'm now in third place, and the person who was in third is now in second.
Say that last part again to me.
Sure. So imagine there's 3 players, 1, 2, and 3,
Yep.
right? I'm in second.
Yep.
I receive 1 vote.
Yep.
And I go down a rank. So now I'm in third. And the person who was in third is now in second.
So what do you mean you receive 1 vote?
Right. Okay. So everyone gets a chance to vote for someone.
Yes.
To downvote somebody else.
Oh, is this a separate mechanic than the guess who people are voting thing?
Yep. Well, so guess who people are is just a quiz at the beginning of the game that happens, and that's how we determine the initial rankings.
Okay.
Right.
And that doesn't happen every day?
Nope.
Gotcha. So that happens in the beginning to determine some initial ranking number to
Yep.
attach to everybody. And then at the end of the game, it happens again, or are you just done with that?
We're experimenting with whether it happens again at the end of the game.
Okay, so let's say that
let's just say it happens on day 1 only, right?
And just for fun, if I guess 3 people right and you guess 3 people right, do we have the same rank? We're tied. Okay. All right. So game day 1, and now presumably we talk beforehand to try to get a higher rank initially.
You have an opportunity to talk beforehand.
How big is that window?
24 hours.
Okay.
So day 1, you have until noon on day 2 to submit your first votes.
So most of day 1 is consumed by
people either telling the truth or lying to each other.
Great. So that's like the experience for day 1 is figuring out who you're going to place in these things, guessing, talking, colluding.
You're also split into teams on day 1.
Okay.
So there's a red team and a blue team. Right now we're just splitting people randomly. There may be a mechanic.
Boys versus girls.
There may be some other mechanic to split people later, right? Yeah. But for now, we're just saying random on day 1.
Okay. So it's random. Split into teams. Okay, and then by the end of day 1, you have a ranking, and you're on a team. So now what?
You have an alias, so you know your own alias.
Right.
You're on a team, and you have submitted a list and then gotten a ranking back.
So you don't know which ones were right.
Correct. You don't know which ones were right. You don't know how many were right.
Yeah.
You just know that you did better than 60% of the other people, you know? Yeah. So then voting happens every day at noon, right? And voting is basically I get 1 down vote to spend every round. and I get to put that downvote on another player.
Okay.
So if I am ranked second,
Yep.
and you are ranked third,
Yep.
you put your downvote on me.
Mm-hmm.
Now you are ranked second, and I am ranked third.
Cool.
Right?
Okay.
There are many variations of this voting system that we've experimented with and written rules for and tested. So it's like, what happens if the downvotes would put people in a tied position?
Yeah.
What order do you resolve the votes in? Do you resolve bottom up or top down? All of these things, we've experimented with them. We've gamed them all out. The most recent one we did was bottom up, basically.
Okay.
So the 3 rules were
apply people's downvotes bottom up to prioritize the losers.
Apply the downvotes to people, starting with the person in last place, and then moving up.
Gotcha. Okay. So you don't apply the lowest person's downvote first. You apply.
No, you apply the votes that were applied, that were voted onto them first.
Yep. Okay.
What that means, one of the side effects of that ranking system is that there's drastic mobility. So if you are on the bottom and get 0 votes and everyone else above you gets a vote, you are in the top. Ooh. That's just the way that works out.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
So it's pretty interesting. Yeah. That actually, so today was the last day of the second play test where I was the GM. Yep. And the person who was in last on round 6 won the game in round 7 by taking 0 votes. Everyone who was ranked higher than them is super pissed, and they say the game is broken. Right. I say, you played it badly. Why did you let this happen? You should have made sure there was a vote on everybody. You know? Yeah. Anyway, it's super interesting. So every day you get a vote. You can either spend your vote or save your vote.
Oh, and then you get to
if you save your vote, you could do 2 votes tomorrow.
Interesting. Okay.
Every round we announce what the new rankings are.
Yep.
So like pig is in first, sheep is in second, chicken is in third, right?
Yeah.
We announce how many votes each alias received. So we say chicken is in third and they got 2 down votes. Okay. And we announce the misers. The misers are the people who have the most number of votes stored up.
Oh.
So if 3 different people all have 3 votes stored, so they all get put on blast.
The counter.
So you want to stay just under the threshold of being the miser.
Right. I was just going to say, like, why don't you just hold on to all your downvotes till the end?
Right, because it puts a target on your back.
Right. Cool. Okay.
And one thing I didn't mention is when you vote for people, you don't vote for their alias. You vote for their real name. So say, I want to put my vote on Caleb, and I think that Caleb is sheep, but I don't know for sure.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And so what you can do in the early rounds is coordinate with your allies to put 2 votes on one person and 1 vote on another. And that way you can identify the alias of both of those people. Right. Because you can see, okay, which alias got 2 down votes and which alias got 1 down vote. Okay. So like I've put 2 on Michael and 1 on Steven. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I see sheep got 2, duck got 1.
But
so now
wouldn't
I know
it be muddied by other people's downvotes being mixed in?
Yeah. So you need to have information on how other people voted too to really use this.
Yeah.
But it can help you, right? And it helps you say like, okay, only 2 sets of people got 2 downvotes. So I know that he's either pig or sheep, whatever. Uh-huh. So there's a lot of like using vote math to figure out who is who. It's really fun. Every day there's a challenge, right? And the challenge is a quiz question, like the first day where you have to rank everybody. Uh-huh. It's a quiz question that you can answer, and if you get it correct, you earn 1 advantage token.
Okay.
So the quiz question might be, which player has received the most votes in the game so far?
Okay, so they're game-based quiz questions.
Game-based quiz questions that reward you for having good information.
Yep.
Right? You get the quiz question right, you receive a token. Mm-hmm. There's only one other way to receive a token, and that is to be the person on your team with the lowest rank. So every round, the person on the team with the lowest rank receives a token. That person's called the GOAT. Nice. Right? So the GOATs receive tokens, the challenge winners receive tokens.
There's no GOAT alias?
No.
Okay.
And GOAT is all caps for
obvious reasons.
Of course. Yeah. And then you can spend those tokens on advantages. So the list of advantages is like things like, so 3 tokens you can buy immunity, which means
Mm-hmm.
any votes against you that round don't count.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy an extra vote. You can buy spy, which just tells you the alias of somebody on the other team.
Mm-hmm.
All of the rewards are team based, right? Because I didn't say this, but in the second round we tested you can only vote against people who are on the other team,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all of the votes are team based. So there is an advantage that allows you to, for 2 tokens, vote against your own teammate.
Cool.
So there's all sorts of these advantages. Anyway, it's really wild. There's a lot of lying and strategy and alliance building and backstabbing and super fun. I won the first round by just fucking everybody. And then the second round, the person in last place won. It's really interesting, but it's really cool to like tweak things. So the main takeaway from the first playtest was there's not enough mobility. If you get stuck on the bottom early in the game, you're kind of stuck
Mm-hmm.
and you can't get off the bottom.
Yep.
So we changed to bottom-up vote tabulation, which now means that there's a ton of mobility.
Yeah.
And now people are complaining that there's
There's
too
too
much
much
mobility and there's
yeah.
not enough value to getting to the top early.
Yeah.
And so Saturday night, we're having like another sort of group call to like debrief after this playtest. And so it really feels like we're like honing in on something, right? Because like it was too far this way last time, it's too far this way this time. Like what variables do we need to tweak to make this work? It's really fun. And like the game second round was drastically more fun than the game first round. Like, and everyone's having a blast, you know, like there's 10 people actively engaged in playing this game all week, which is crazy, you know? It's really fun. So anyway, I'm
Is it playable
writing
with less than 10?
So we don't know because we've only played it with 9 and 10 people. So one of our play tests is going to be, once we get the rules basically nailed down, we're going to try playing with 5 people and we're going to try playing with 25 people. And we're going to see how it feels, you know, and that way we'll figure out how many people you need to have to play it.
Yep.
So I'm running the software. So the software needs to, so initially this was just going to be a Discord bot that did everything. Discord bots don't have interaction buttons like Slack bots do. So Slack bots can have interaction buttons. Discord bots can't. Unfortunate. But the and so for a lot of the interactions, it just makes more sense to have them happen on a website and have the bot just send you a link to go do them for now.
Yep.
So we're making basically a web app that you can play this game in.
Cool.
And so that means signed URLs that are sent to players that allow them to do votes.
Yep.
That means vote tabulation that takes into account all of the active advantages for the round, that takes into account the like bottom up vote application procedures. And then, you know, you and Ryan Atkins made that like list ordering thing. I'm totally using that for the scoreboard because it's so useful to like demonstrate like how people moved between rounds.
Cool.
Right? Because it's better than just saying like, this was the rankings, now this is the rankings. Just having that little piece of animation that says like, you know, it does a lot. And I think I'm actually going to pass down an array of arrays. That is so like as the votes are applied bottom up, I'm going to snapshot them.
Cool. So you
for
can
each
see
person,
the steps.
so I can animate them one at a time.
Fun.
You know,
fun.
Which is going to be cool.
That's very cool. Totally. That's so cool. Interesting, man. Yeah.
I imagine eventually I'm going to need to do all of this with event sourcing. I'm not doing that yet. Right. But like eventually it's going to make more, because this is basically like a perfect use case for event sourcing. A bunch of things happen asynchronously. They need to be applied in a specific order to end with an ultimate result. Right. Like it's perfect because it matters if like John played an advantage at 11:59 or 12:01. Right. and like race conditions are real, because a lot of times right before the
Yeah.
end, like people are all trying to do a bunch of shit all at once, you
Right.
know? And like there's an advantage that lets you burn someone else's token, right? So I
Mm,
can spend 2 tokens to make one of your tokens disappear.
cool.
And if you had 3 tokens and we're planning on playing immunity,
Yep.
right? But you didn't want to play it too early so that people knew.
Yeah.
You want to play it right before the buzzer.
Yeah. And
So
I
what
want to
that
play the
can mean
burn
is
thing
that
right before the buzzer too.
someone could burn one of your tokens
You
right
had
before you're
request.
able to play. Yeah, exactly. So all of this
Yeah.
is important, you know?
Yep.
So anyway, there's a lot of stuff. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
That's
I think the
very, very
scoreboard could
interesting.
be a Livewire shared view.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
you know what I'm
Cool.
saying?
Yeah. I know
With
what you're saying.
some private components
Yeah.
in it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like a
Mm-hmm.
public view, a public component with some private child components.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, really fun. Um, this has led to me being even more obsessed with like wire model defer
Mm.
and sort of like ephemeral state stuff
Yep.
than I was before. You
Yep.
know, like ephemeral state that like can be applied with the click of a button and
Yeah.
is stored on the server but
Yep.
is not stored in the database, right? So
Yep.
like when there is state that is already transported back to the server but not yet applied to the database, and like
Yep.
what the right thing to do with that is, and like especially when it's like changes to a model, right? Like,
Yep.
and then like clicking a button does like a model save, but like what happens if it's not just like changing attributes on a model but changing like relationships or changing other more complicated things. So anyway, these are all the things that I'm really interested in right now. In general, like I think in general pages where you are adding and removing child models
Yep.
on the edit page of the parent model is like a really interesting and common problem that I keep running into.
Okay.
Not specifically with Livewire, just in programming in general.
Yeah.
But like I I'm having a lot of fun like thinking about these ideas. You know, like I think that there are some like revelations to be had about
Mm.
like a few of these use cases.
Okay.
Specifically like the parent edit page child model macro
Yeah.
control stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
is like so common
Yep.
and like not well solved,
Sure.
you know? And I think can be solved pretty well in like a repeatable way. And I feel like my head's almost wrapped around it.
Okay.
Then
Do you have a
general,
concrete example? Concrete and like isolated
yeah.
enough that we could talk about it?
For sure. Let me get the one other thing out. The
Okay.
other thing that I think is extremely closely related to this
Mm-hmm.
is basically like ephemeral changes that are not just to one model, but are to like a bunch of interrelated things,
Okay.
and then like applying them.
Yeah.
So these are the things that I'm like obsessed with. So all of this comes out of the question answers component stuff that we've talked about, right?
Yep.
Or that you and I have talked about. I don't know if we put it on the show, but like
Mm-hmm.
there's a question page. Questions have many answers. So on the question edit page, I need to be able to add, remove, and update answers dynamically with special validation so that I can't remove the last correct answer or the last incorrect answer, with all sorts of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of like weird UI things and all of that. But the important thing is like I need to like have all of these changes, which is like imagine an array of changes, which is like remove this one, change this one, add this one, right?
Yep.
So those are the three sort of ephemeral changes that I need to have in memory somewhere, you know?
Yep. And to clarify
And
for the
then I need a
user,
button that like applies them.
what Daniel's talking about is like, yeah. So let's say, is there a non-question answer entity that we could use to make sure that we're both divorced from the domain?
Sure. So let's talk about a situation where like a post has tags, right?
Yep.
Post
Okay.
has tags. Um, we're on the edit page of this post, and
Yep.
it has 2 tags applied to it,
Yep.
right? And then there's a little input below there where I can just type something and press enter, and it creates a new tag.
Yep.
And applies it to the post.
Right.
Right. And then I can click a little close button on the tag.
Yep.
And it removes the tag from the post.
Yep.
But then I can click on the tag itself and then edit the contents of the post.
Right. Yeah.
Or edit the name of the tag.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So like this is the thing we're talking about. So I'm on the post edit page.
Yep.
Right. But from the post edit page within that form, I need to be able to remove, edit, and create tags. Right.
Yep.
And if I make all of those changes and don't press the save button, none of those changes should be persisted.
Yeah.
It is a wild and interesting thing, right? Because it's like, okay, let's just not talk about Livewire for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about like, it's a form submitting to a controller method.
Yeah.
Like, what does your controller method look like? What is your request supposed to look like, right? Are you supposed to submit a tags changes array that includes like all of the relevant information about the tag and then like what operation to do on it? Like,
right.
Here's all the information. Do an update. Here's all the information. Do a delete. Passing deletes up is very weird. Anyway, this is
right. So this is this is good. This is good because there's like, so if we're just thinking of this in a normal form submission context, and you have a little form input called tags and whatever, like what is the output of that? What does it come in as in the request object in your controller post method that receives the form submission? And the fun approach for me, like the nice approach, is for something. This isn't going to apply because you're going to take it up a notch. But if they're simply tags, like if just the only thing that matters about the tag is its text content, then every form submission you could pass a plain array of strings, and those are the tags. Mm-hmm. And every time you save, you can perform the sync on the relationship, which basically means like post. You grab the post, and then you grab all its related tags, you destroy them, and then you insert all these tags, Mm-hmm.
But let's say these tags already have relationships to multiple posts, and you're going to need to be able to list those posts by tag somewhere.
Yeah. So right. So I guess what I'm saying is
destroy them because that breaks all the existing relationships.
Right. So now you get into keeping IDs. Mm-hmm. So when you create one and it has an ID, so the problem here, you can very easily arrow sync a list of IDs, mm-hmm. and that'll handle the creation and destroying of the relationship.
Correct.
It won't necessarily handle the destroying of the tag itself.
Right.
Because by it just not existing, and it won't handle new tags that don't have an ID yet. So this is that problem, is like, you might have this hodgepodge, you might have existing tags that, like you're saying, have changes to them. So maybe let's just say, like, if I were doing this and not thinking about it, I would, submit back to the server a JSON schema, like that would be purely the tag info. So let's say it's called tags, it's an array. The first one is an existing tag. So it already has an ID. So it has ID and then mm-hmm. title or whatever, mm-hmm. label. And then there's a new one that I created in that form that doesn't have an ID yet.
Have an ID.
So the ID is null or non-existent. And then you have the title column. And then I removed one, so it just doesn't exist in that list. Mm-hmm. So then when you submit back to the server, you first get a list of all the tags that are currently related. Or you know what? This is what I would do. I would go through, find everything that doesn't have an ID. Then I would create it. Mm-hmm. Then I would query to get all of the created and existing ones. Mm-hmm. I would go through and run updates on them all so that, I handle all the updating. So first I handle the creation, then I handle all the updates. Then I do a sync on those IDs to handle the deletion of the ones that I didn't return in that request. Mm-hmm. So that would be the very imperative manual way to handle this problem.
So you can do a little bit better than that, right?
Okay.
You can actually do an update or create.
Cool. Yep. Perfect.
So you just do an update or create on everything in the list.
Yep.
Then you pluck ID sync.
Perfect.
Right. So that's like the cleanest.
Yeah. Dude, that's so freaking clean. Laravel's awesome.
But
that's great.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Sync doesn't work, I don't think, except for on belongs to many relationships. Right. And so if this was a situation where it was a question
Interesting.
with answers and there wasn't a pivot table,
Yep.
you can't, the sync
It's
method
gotta
doesn't work.
work. Really? You know that?
Yeah, sync is just an affordance for belongs to many's, right? Am I wrong?
Huh. I feel like I use it. Yeah, it's very possible.
Are you checking?
Yeah.
Good, because I don't want to like
Um,
lie to the people, because that's just an assumption I've been making here.
right. Okay. Associate works with belong. Sync can be used to synchronize the either side of belongs to many. Maybe it is. Can change a passing false as a second argument. This will attach the roles ID without affecting the existing roles. I think maybe there's a second argument. Yeah. I don't know, dude. I feel like
I'm pretty sure there is no sync except for belongs to many. There should be.
this, I think sync.
But like, what would the query even look like? Like, think about it as a SQL query, right? Like, what would the SQL query behind a sync for a has many be?
Yeah. So, well, that's the thing. I bet it would use multiple queries.
Yeah.
Um, because I think you could probably sync across databases even.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to guess, the resulting query of a sync would get and then cross reference and then do the update and delete. Um, so I mean it looks like so users and posts that would be a has many. That's not a belongs to many
Mm-hmm.
typically. And I think yeah,
Well, user post could be a belongs to many, right? Like if there's multiple users associated with a post.
dude. Anyway, I feel
Anyway,
like sync can be used in both, but I could be wrong. So I'm
okay.
not going to waste the user's
So
time.
yeah, if you can do it that way, then like update or create sync, update or create. Uh, so the things that are missing from like the perfect implementation, it would be dope if you could just do an update or create many.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then you could literally just take the request thing, send it right into update or create many, um, and then uh, and then do pluck ID, and then send that right into sync.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that would be so cool. You can't. You have to
Mm.
make a couple of temporary variables or like have an extra couple lines of code,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still pretty clean. Like update or create right into sync is clean.
Yeah. So
If you
clean.
could, I need to check whether you can actually do that in
Yeah.
um but anyway, that's really interesting. It's also really interesting when like those get passed along with like changes to the parent model, you know? And it's like like what happens, for example, like if like things that could break, right? So like imagine a race condition where like two different people deleted the same tag at the same time, you know? Well, now does the parent model itself not update? Like what needs to be inside of a transaction here? Like it's all kind of like complicated, right? Because you're like submitting changes to the parent model at the same time that you're submitting changes to child models. Like
Okay.
what happens if something fails on the change to the child model? Should that also fail the changes to the parent model?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's real interesting. I really enjoy it, and like what about like old input, like that's like
Mm.
a whole consideration, like errors, validation errors, old input, the whole thing is like complicated, like what gets passed where. Like for a long time I had these bad error messages that said the answer dot zero dot answer field is required, the
For
answer
sure.
dot one dot answer field is required.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is like ugh, gross. And like
Yeah.
writing good validation messages for that because the reason it was failing validation was you can't delete the last correct answer and you can't delete the last incorrect answer,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But like the validation messages are just the answer dot zero dot,
Yep.
and it's like, and it's not easy to write a validation message which knows whether the reason that this is required is that it was the last correct one, or the reason was, without writing a custom
Not writing a
validation
custom
rule or
rule. Yeah.
something.
Yep.
um so yeah, anyway, it's a whole like complicated and interesting problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it has generally led me, because in building this game I'm in a very similar situation
Yep.
where like a player needs to do some actions, right? So
Yeah.
there's one thing I didn't mention in the rules is like there's round swaps every other round.
Okay.
So, or sorry, team swaps every other round. So every other round, you as a player get to choose what team you want to be on,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Which means when I submit my votes, so first of all, like the game needs to know how many votes I have to spend. It
Yep.
needs to let me spend them all, right? And like put that all into the form without actually applying it,
Yep.
right? So like I want 3 on John or 2 on John, 1 on Steven,
Yeah.
right? Because I have 3 to spend,
Yep.
you know? It needs to do some like, good classic front end, like disabling the input when I am out of votes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, then it also has this other thing, which is like, it has to let me swap teams, right? And I need to submit all of this in one form, right? So I like press submit, something happens. Okay, well, in the time that I had this page open, someone burned one of my tokens or something, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like something I wanted to do is now not possible. So all that needs to be in a transaction so that like it doesn't get half executed,
Yep.
It's all very interesting. And it leads me, and this, this thing I'm talking about is like, this is all live wired up. So I've got like a component on the back end that's like holding all this information, like create 2 votes on John, create 1 vote on Steven, swap from team red to team blue, and play an immunity idol, right?
Yep.
Like all these like actions that need to happen are kind of like stored ephemerally in the Livewire component and need to be applied at once,
Yep.
in some sort of a safe way where if there are race conditions that cause a problem, like they can be like rolled back
Right.
intelligently. So anyway, I'm just real into this whole idea of kind of like ephemeral, especially with Livewire components, like ephemeral state in the Livewire component that is being applied,
Mm-hmm.
right? Generally speaking, the reason is that like the better I am at handling like ephemeral state in the component
Yep.
that needs to then be applied to the database, the better I will also be at like engineering my forms to be completely wire defer,
Right.
so that like all the ephemeral state like can just kind of like be deferred and hit live wire at the same time, and like and not have like requests between everything, because I think like in my like short experience with Livewire, I think that like model defer is like the good way to use Livewire, and that's what
Should
everyone should be doing.
Yeah. When along my rewrite, I thought like the last time I debated making defer the default, I didn't
Yep.
because it seemed like a really big change. And now it's an even bigger change to make because Livewire is that much more established. But I feel like it is a much better default,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, for like most use cases, right? It's just
Yeah.
for the demo. You know what it is? It makes demos harder,
Yeah.
because the demo use case where it's like, oh look, I wire modeled and now I type in this field and now it's
And it
over
just
in this
magically
field.
works, right?
Yeah, but it's like, well, that now doesn't work because I
Yeah.
type in this field, then I press a button, now it's over here.
Yeah, man. It's tough.
But
You
like,
know what?
how
It
many
could
times
be,
in your real life do you actually need like character by character input to send
yeah,
messages to the server?
Livewire. No, it's almost never. Almost never.
It's
I
it's
need,
literally it's like type ahead search. It is,
yep.
that's it. That's like
It's
someone
real
is
time
typing
saving forms,
notifications.
real time, um, yeah, like auto saving forms. That's one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But even that you
yeah,
could do on like a poll or something. Just save it every 10 seconds or something.
sure. But I mean, I would just use the
Yeah.
wire model. Um, Yeah, no, I definitely thought about it, and maybe it will be because I'm not going to launch the next Livewire version. I forget what the Livewire version release constraint is. I established it at one point when I had a moment of clarity. Let's see, release schedule. These many reviews are following. Release is important. All major versions will be tagged alongside Laravel's major version release schedule. That does not mean Livewire will release a major version every, but that means that it will, when it does release a major version, it will coincide with a Laravel release.
Interesting.
So I forget why I applied that constraint, but I'm pretty sure I remember pairing with David Hemphill when we were talking about using Livewire and Nova. and we're thinking through the implications of using Livewire and Nova. If you have Livewire in your Laravel app and you have Nova,
Yeah.
and because Composer is not friendly to like having a package that has a dependency of a package that you have a dependency of that are different versions,
Right.
not kosher at all. So be like, wait a minute, how does this work? And basically we realized like the only way to make this not a nightmare is that Livewire is at least as at
Stick to the
most
major
as
versions.
frequent as Laravel. It can
Yeah.
be less frequent, but it has to be on the same schedule as Laravel um, for these things to make more sense.
Yep.
So Laravel, they, I'm sure you saw the news that they're not doing an every 6 month release anymore,
Hmm.
which makes things more interesting. Now it's going to be every year. And so the release has gotten pushed back to September, which is actually good news, I think, because now I have until September. Basically, I have to decide, do I want to set my target as get Livewire 3 ready for September? Because I can't release a new major version until September
Right.
right now, which is a kind of good news. It makes me feel like, oh, great, I
Yeah, but
can
it also
focus
like
on,
means you have to release it by then, or else you miss the bus and you're a
yeah, and then I'm
year
out a
out.
year. Right. It's funny. It is like a little bit of pressure there. Um, yeah, it's pretty
It's interesting.
interesting. But I mean, I don't know. I feel good about that. Like hustle on Alpine 3 right now, get
Hmm.
that done, working, and supported in Livewire, launch all that. Then then Alpine's like, a
Yep.
little bit. And then I can focus on. So maybe I just do Alpine and Livewire alternating. Like
Hmm.
Alpine releases in the spring, Livewire releases in the fall. And
That'd
then
be cool.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Stuff
But
like that.
anyway, like
Yeah.
ephemeral state. So defer is basically like ephemeral state on the front end that needs to be pushed to the back end,
Yeah. And then there's
right?
back end
And then there's this
ephemerals.
other thing where it's like ephemeral state in the component that needs to be pushed to
The
like the
database.
persistence layer,
Yes.
right? And like these are like my head is just all in these thoughts right now. Like everything I think about seems to be some sort of deferred state,
Yeah.
some sort of like ephemeral state that like could get rolled back if something went bad, or like,
The
and
cool
these are
thing
just the
about
things I'm thinking about. I don't
the
know.
cool thing about if you use the Livewire component model, if you use a Livewire component in in the way that, so there's kind of a fork in the Livewire path that I'm still uncertain if it's the best move, but I haven't heard a lot of, I think I'm the harshest critic of it, that
Hmm.
original Livewire version 1, the state that's stored between requests, the state that you use as your public properties is plain stuff. It's arrays, it's string, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Livewire 2 has the ability, if you want, to store a model as a public property and
Hmm.
keep that stateful and not persistent to the database every request.
Hmm.
So, which, that
So
creates a
that is
fork.
insanely important for my use case.
Right. And so this is a case where the use case you're describing, where traditionally the traditional brain that we just walked through is like you do all the ephemeral, non-saved form stuff on the front end, you compile a sort of canonical JSON object, and then you pass that to the server, and then you go server, you pick up the pieces and figure out what things to move around in the database.
Yeah, but
Right.
that sucks. Like
Right. And
the
it does
promise
suck.
of Livewire is like that I shouldn't have to have a form request and a controller method and a DTO and all this other bullshit to make the data shaped the way that I want it to be
Yeah,
to go into the
exactly.
database.
So in the ideal Liveware world, you have a property called post,
Hmm.
and
And you
that's
do
probably it.
wire
And then
model post dot title.
at on plus click, you say post arrow new, or so you create you create a tag.
Hmm.
The interesting thing is, here's the interesting thing. How do you add, there has to be a story in Liveware, which there's not right now, for adding a model that doesn't exist in the database yet
Hmm.
as a
So
relationship in memory.
so I think this, can you actually do like, tell me if this works. Can I go post arrow tags arrow make?
I bet you can't, but I bet you can't. I bet you can. I don't know. Let's see. Make.
And it just like creates an in memory item with an ID, but where exists is false.
Dude, what freaking project am I even on? Why do I have a quiz answer? Dude, we must have been pairing.
I
I
think we were, yeah.
I searched make. This is the craziest coincidence. And there's test/unit/quiz answer. That is not my domain. That is
Yeah,
your
must have
domain.
been me.
That's so funny. So if I go down Illuminate, let's see, is there Illuminate database? I don't know.
Well, we PR'd the make method.
Okay, has one relations
You
has
may
one.
recall on the second episode of 20% Time, we
Oh,
invented the make method.
funny. We did, didn't we? Um, okay, so this is it. Make method on I think all the relations. So it has one or many relationship.
Mhm.
Has a method called make that the doc block is create and return an unsaved instance of the related model.
Okay, so that's what it is.
And it does a
So
new
what you would
instance
do,
and it sets the foreign key attribute on create.
mm, so what you could do is you just you have a method in your Livewire component called add tag
Yep.
with with a whatever attributes it needs to take,
Yep.
right? And then inside that you just do this arrow post arrow tags arrow make and pass the
Yep.
thing in.
Yes.
And that should mean that post arrow tags now returns that thing, right?
No. So I imagine that that when you do the make, it's going to create the new instance of that model and return itself.
No,
So
no, I know, but like,
but it's not going to attach it to the relationship.
okay, so then we would need to do set relation. So we would do post arrow set relation, right? So you would want to eager load the tags on the first load of post, right?
Wait a second. I
Yeah,
can't.
so you would
I can't
do
think of this right now.
you would eager load the tags the first time you load the post, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
now there's like a collection, an eloquent collection of tags,
Yep.
right? And then you should at that point be able to say post. So then you like grab that stuff, hold it in memory,
Yep.
push the new one onto it,
Right.
and then do set relation on the post to put it back.
Yes.
So that's the things that need to happen. There might be a cleaner API for it, but like,
Yeah. Like I mean, right. Like so, you're saying you should literally be able to do to add it. So right initially, this is one annoying thing is that you will have to eager load the tags initially.
well, I think you should do that anyway.
So let's say you don't eager load the tags initially.
Uh-huh. Well, they're loaded once you use them, right?
They are
Right? Like if
good
I do,
question.
that's why
I
you have
would
to call fresh on a
yeah.
model is to get fresh relationships.
Does
So they're loaded and
Livewire pick
cached.
up that loadedness? You know, like
Oh,
is
right,
that
like
how?
on a subsequent request, you mean?
Yeah,
Probably
just
not.
by so let's say that Livewire, if you load the relationships, let's say Livewire is just like they want this loaded, but
Hmm.
let's just say it's that way because I'm trying to picture the version where you don't have to think about eager loading,
Hmm.
where it's like it's loaded into memory because you accessed it.
Yeah.
That's why.
And then because you're trying to access it, because on a subsequent request, you're doing something with that thing,
Yep.
Livewire knows that you're going to want to mess with that relationship. So Livewire eager loads it on the subsequent request too for you.
That's the thing is like that's what I'm saying is like if you just use it, will it signify that that thing is eager loaded so that the next request it just comes in
So
eager
no, you
loaded?
would have to actually like use it,
So forget
which
it.
you're not doing.
Let's just say that in your mount method or whatever you do like this arrow post arrow load tags.
Yeah.
So now it's eager loaded and
Or
then there's a
if you want to be safe, you can just do load missing, and then that way, if it does work, you're covered.
what's load missing?
Load missing is just like load if it's not already loaded,
Cool. Okay.
which is a sick method.
That is a sick method.
You should just never type load. You should just always use load missing.
Yeah, it's like
Unless you
like
know that it's already loaded and you want to overwrite it. Like load missing is like the answer 90% of the time.
okay. Like find or fail.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
just
Find or
always
fail,
do
update
find or
or
fail.
create. Like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
yeah. That
I
one,
know.
if you didn't have to separate the arguments, like, because I would agree with you, but
Yeah.
okay. So you got your thing, Deke, and then so you eager load your things, and then you have the button to add a new tag with
Mm-hmm.
the method in the Livewire component that says this arrow. No. That says yes.
This
It's
arrow post
this
arrow
arrow
tags.
post arrow make. Sorry,
Yep.
this arrow post arrow tags arrow make. Pass in the label or whatever. You say $tag equals this arrow post arrow make, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a dollar sign tag. Then you say this arrow post arrow tags arrow push tag.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only bummer that you have to do that, but whatever. So
Sure.
you do that. Now it's like stored in memory. Livewire just keeps track of it, and then you use it as you please. Your list, the blade list of tags will be updated because it's now a related thing inside of that. And then whenever you want, you hit save and you do this arrow post arrow save.
Right.
And then will it automatically, I guess this is a question of eloquent, if you just push on a non-persisted instance to that eloquent collection, when you hit save on the parent model, like post arrow save, does it
It won't.
cascade the saves?
No, it won't.
So you have
I
to do
doubt. I
like
don't think.
this
Like
arrow post arrow tags arrow save arrow each
that.
arrow save or
So I
something like
think
that.
this arrow posts, arrow tags, arrow save, and then you would have to like pass in all of the non-persisted items. So you would, um, so which is fine because you could make like a trait or like you could make like a custom eloquent model or like a trait that goes on eloquent models, where or on the relationship thing, right? Like you could make like your own version of has one or many or something where you basically say like calling save without an attribute means look to see if there are any
All
unpersisted
right.
ones in here. And that might already be something that it does. I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, I do too. Um,
But it's not that like out of you could you could do it with a nice API or you could do it with a bad API, but you could do it.
so save merge attributes. Okay. New model saving is dirty perform update. So I don't
Wait,
know.
is dirty perform update?
Yeah. Let's just see what if the model already exists in the database, we can just update our record that is already in the database using the current IDs in this where. Yeah, I don't think it does that. If the model is successfully saved, we need to do a few more things. Once it is done, we'll call the save method here to run any actions that we need to happen after a model gets successfully saved right here. So it's either perform update or finished saved. Touch owners. Okay, so it's going up.
Mm-hmm.
It'll touch the owners. Um, and then yeah, I guess it would be fun if perform update did it updates timestamps and
So you're saying perform update on the model? It'd be cool if that saved its
I
children.
don't know if it would be cool, but yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at.
Mm-hmm.
Because so this is how I feel, Daniel, about stuff like this. I feel like I'm torn between these two poles. On the one pole is keeping the controller mental model of the state being raw data input, and then your persist. I know. But that's the one pole where Livewire is just a live controller essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other pole, you have this deep connection to the models themselves, whether or
We'll
not
call
they're
this the
already
good mental model. Yeah.
right, sure, whether or not they're already persist. This is really interesting to me because I feel very much torn about this end, and so this is why I feel torn. You and Mitch both like are all about it because this is what you're driving at because you see it. You're like, it's already there. Like we can do this. So you have this poll, which to me would be fantastic if I think my big question is eloquent not built for this? And are there too many assumptions where like for a user coming into Livewire, so maybe it's just like pie in the sky Livewire for people who are super into it and want to use it this way, they can use it this way. But for the rest, it's not even in the messaging initially. Because that's the danger is like I want to be careful to not be like, this is how you should use Livewire. Just use eloquent models like you would intuitively think you could. But then people end up in these weird situations where like, oh, I have to eager load this thing and then I have to like create these things and they're attached as relationships, but they're not really attached. So I can't just hit save. I have to
So
loop
I
through
would say
them.
you shouldn't build functionality into Eloquent for them that's not already there
Yeah, right.
unless you tell them that that's what you're doing,
Yes. And it's I think
right?
for
Which means that you should make methods that that have different names than the default Eloquent methods, right? So
yeah.
you should create a save with child relationships method instead of just overwriting the save method to get what you want, you know?
Right. And then we're into the realm of like, wait, what are those? I'm straying from the just use Laravel like you normally would, and now you can use Livewire. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like dangerous territory for me. It's like, yeah, I want it to be intuitive,
Well,
but it's
but you can just let people do it themselves. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like I could just do this myself right now. I think, you know.
sure. Yeah. The only thing you couldn't do, you would have to build your own functionality for Livewire to persist. Okay, Livewire will persist relationships. It won't persist changed relationships that aren't persistent in the database. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, yeah. But you just need to do that when you call to save, right? So like I have a method on my component called submit, right?
Yeah.
In that method, I would have to call some code that takes all of the non-persistent things that I've been pushing onto the relationships and saves them.
That's what I'm saying is so right now in Livewire,
Mm-hmm.
again, I want to say what I was going to say before, which is that to use this stuff effectively, you have to have a really intuitive understanding of the request lifecycle of Livewire.
And what's passed up and down and what's not. Right.
Yes, and
So
hydrating and dehydrating. You
so
have to
so
understand
sorry.
those things.
This is
And hold on, you have to
mhm,
understand that, and you also have to understand eloquent and how it sometimes you have a collection that is
mhm,
not the same as the query builder,
mhm,
and sometimes the collection is fresh and not dirty, and other times it is. So these are
mhm.
complex things that you and I, let me finish, you and I understand intuitively, but all that stuff I described for Livewire, that's the really hard high level stuff for Livewire users, for the
Mhm.
majority, I think. And for eloquent users, I think for the majority of eloquent users, those, at least beginners, those things are the final bosses. They're like really tough. So if you
Mhm.
combine all that, and if this is like the perfect how to use Livewire, then you have a whole user base of people who are just following, like, ooh, this would be so cool if it worked. And then when it doesn't, they're like, how in the world do I even figure out what is happening at
Sure, sure,
all?
sure,
You
sure,
know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Soapbox, stepping off the
Um,
soapbox.
Couple things. One thing, when we were pairing and generally talking to you, you have generally strayed away from passing IDs back and forth because of security concerns, right?
Oh,
Um,
I'm okay with passing IDs if they are not mutable.
sure.
Yes.
What do you mean by not mutable?
I'm
I mean,
not
I know
okay.
what those words mean, but like, what do you mean?
They're not, it's not mutable state data in Livewire. It's like hard coded checksum stone carved data. Like you can see the ID if you
Sure,
look
sure,
at
sure,
the
sure, sure.
request, but you can't like wire model to it, you know?
Yeah. So, I think my gut says it's fine as long as, and like these are some convenience features you could build into Livewire if you were so inclined, right? But like, as long as you have a like required in, or like whatever the validation rule is that like ensures that it
That the
is
user owns it.
within, yeah, that it is related to the thing, right? And so
Yep.
you could make convenience methods for relationships
Yep.
that say, because like ultimately, like after we paired, one of the one of the solutions we didn't go towards was like something that required us to like pass IDs back and forth a lot,
Yeah.
because of
Right.
that, right?
Yes.
And
Because
I was like, I ultimately ended up being like, yeah, fuck that. Like I'm just gonna make a validation rule for IDs to make sure that you can't change the ID to something that you're not allowed to access or something,
right.
and then
Right.
we're fine.
That is a whole layer of convenience that once you understand implications, you can do crazy cool things.
Yeah.
But I can't make it the default, you know, because
Right.
I can't put the burden. This is why I feel like I can make it I feel like basically here's my guiding light. I can use at minimum the amount of security knowledge you need to operate safely in a controller context
Mm-hmm.
of from data coming from the request. No less. I don't know if it's less or more, but you know what I'm saying. Like
Sure.
that's as far as I'm willing to go,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not willing to go any farther because I don't think because people don't understand the
So is there a
implications
world
of
where you
wire
could
model.
make those validation rules the default, where
Oh, right. Yeah, where you just detect like
and you
if
would,
it's a
if someone wanted to
primary
do
key or
something
an
else,
or something.
like they would have to add their own validation rule that like
Right.
overrode that in some way.
Yeah, I don't know how I would do that though. Like
I don't either, but like
I would be
that's kind of a
checking like
direction I think it'd be interesting to like at least like, you know, daydream in that direction a
yep.
little bit and be like, what is over there? Like, is there a world where like we can just sort of own these security concerns ourselves as the framework, and
I
then like
want
give people the tools to not care about security if they want,
yeah.
but you know.
I want there to be a plugin for Livewire called like eloquent, uh, sparkles or
Yeah.
something.
Eloquent God mode.
Eloquent God mode that basically does all of this so
Yeah.
that core Livewire can rid itself of 1,000 million conditionals and bug fixes and understand like communication thing, you know what I mean? All that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Yeah. I honestly, that would be great if it was totally isolated to something separate that somebody else could, maintain and like, and what it would do with the benefit to the core would be that the core doesn't have to maintain this stuff and deal with it. But the big benefit is the communication difference. It's like when you're using this, you're in eloquent God mode, you know,
Yeah.
and that this is the tree. Like Mitch is like, it's like, wait a minute, can I just have a model that I can also use as a Livewire component, and the public properties are just like the attributes. I can
Holy
just call like
shit, dude.
save on. He's like,
Holy
why can't
shit.
I just add a render method to an
To
eloquent
my
model?
models.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So you can just have your routes where you just like say like route colon get post, and
Holy
then you just pass
shit.
the post model. Or it could even know the post model by like knowing the model name and no relationships and all that crazy stuff.
Oh my God.
No, it's
I'm
it's
rock
definitely
hard right now.
I know. It's fun to like to go there, but yeah.
That is
So he's always
wild.
pushing me to make Livewire more and more portable so that
Yeah.
like stuff like this becomes extremely possible. Like
What the
anything with the
fuck?
render method should be able to be a Livewire component.
Yeah, he's right.
I know. Right
Mitch
from a
is right.
user's perspective. From
Yeah,
my perspective,
well,
I'm like, dude, how in the world, But
dude,
yeah,
oh my God. What else can I make into Livewire
I
components?
know.
Can I?
Controllers,
Oh, yeah.
just like make a, that would be pretty
Well, then
interesting if you
all
just made
blade
a
components now just are Livewire components.
right. I mean, you could make blade component. I mean, blade components are like inspired from Livewire components. They're just sort of not
Right,
live.
right.
They
Yeah.
have render methods.
Yeah.
They have mount methods.
Mount methods. Yeah. So what's to stop me from just doing like wire model in a blade component if I have Livewire installed?
Oh, it won't work.
Why not?
What do you mean? You'd have to.
Why don't you make it work?
Right. So we thought about
Why shouldn't it work?
right. You would need to opt in to the live aspect. All right.
Right,
So
which you do by typing the words wire colon
no. So that's the problem. Is like right. Well, maybe
by
Livewire
typing
does it.
at Livewire scripts and wire colon you have opted in.
You're right. You would need Livewire script, but like no, like the component itself would be exposing a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily know about. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
so okay, but I mean what I toyed with the Taylor was like, well, what if it's just artisan make component hyphen live, It's just
Mm-hmm.
like this one's live now.
Yeah.
Because you're using them the same way. But there's the biggest difference is there's no such thing as a slot with a Livewire component. And that's
So,
and so
sounds like an
slots are
opportunity
easy.
for growth for you, Caleb.
I know slots are easy. Scope slots are not easy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that's something that if you wanted scope slots, you're kind of out of luck, and that is a feature that exists in Blade components.
Gotcha.
But I mean, maybe there's a possibility for it. We've talked about it. There's a possibility for a lot of things. It's just like finding the right things and
Mm-hmm.
putting the time in the right places. And really, it's hardening the core. Like that's the story of Livewire. It's just like every iteration I try to make things more explicit and scoped and smaller and more modular, and I feel like I need another Livewire version of steps in that direction to make any big moves, like that. You know?
I do
You know,
know.
Deke?
I do know.
Alpine. I don't know if we want to pivot to Alpine, but like I'm toying with
I'm
some cool
still
stuff in
thinking about the
Alpine.
fact that that models could have a render method and just be Livewire components with attributes that are properties
Right.
and
So,
just be and then you just
oh,
wire colon click save on the submit button and it just saves.
yeah, this is the difference. Or the thing that I'm trying to dig up my conversation with Mitch was like, save. Okay. So, like, which one do you extend, for the model for post? Do you extend model or do you extend Livewire component? is it like which one has to be the trait? There's no multiple inheritance, and likely it would be the component would take the the side car. It would be the trait. So you'd have a model called post extends model, and then you would use Livewire component or something
Hmm.
because it has to know, because there's all that fun. Basically, the core would have to be rewritten to
So
just
the only two
allow a
methods, the only two methods that would need to exist are render and mount, right? Couldn't you just make a new Livewire component in the back end with those two methods if that thing is used as a component? Like, couldn't you get away with just not having the trait? You just new up a component and feed it stuff that was on that thing.
like spoof the Livewire component, like create like a hidden secret Livewire component that.
Yeah.
Well, so there's things like it uses reflection and such to know like properties and whatnot. Livewire's core could be rewritten so that it doesn't actually matter that you extend component. But the problem is then you want to call things like this arrow,
Mm-hmm.
this arrow refresh, this arrow redirect, this arrow, not refresh doesn't exist, this arrow, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if there's any collisions. There might be, but let's say there's not. Yeah. So what Mitch wants is a eloquent model is in charge of persistence, which it's already in charge of. Validation, he wants to
Mm-hmm.
have all the rules just right in the eloquent model, and
That is
rendering.
correct. Yes.
Which would be, yeah.
Mitch has the right idea. He's just smart and good.
It
You know
is
why? Because Mitch
pretty interesting.
understands that having files is bad, and
Yeah, having
the more
files is
files
bad.
you cannot have, the better
The
you
better,
are as a programmer.
right? So,
And people who make files are bad programmers. Those are the things that me and Mitch both know.
yep. Okay, so here's the deal, Deke.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Livewire core has to be rewritten so that it doesn't rely on private methods. Basically, like here's what it has to do so that it doesn't rely on basically so it doesn't rely on the fact that a component is an inherited child of of the component class, the
Mm-hmm.
God component Livewire class. So it's tradeable. It has to be traitable so that when you're using, you can still extend component or you can use whatever.
The component trait.
Yes, which is like a mixin'
So
of all that stuff.
basically, component would just be a class that uses the trait and has no methods of its own.
Hold on. Can a trait extend a class? I don't think so.
Probably not.
No, because that would give you
like-
multiple inheritance.
But like then the class would just use the trait and have no, and then have like a / and then a quote from the DAO.
Yeah.
Right? Just be an empty class with one trait.
Yes.
And then you could extend that if you wanted to, or you could.
Oh, I gotcha. Oh, yeah. Sure,
put
right.
everything in the
Livewire
trait.
components just make everything the trait.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So if you rewrote the core as like a don't do anything with models, but just as like a project to set you up for that, the alley-oop PR is refactor it to be a trait. Yeah. And then make sure that and then make sure that the core works and everything. But there's some.
So what do we not know about traits that is going to cause problems here? What are the restrictions of traits that we're not thinking about?
So
reflection stuff.
The reflection stuff you'd have to massage, but
you
whatever.
get away with that by just making a Livewire component class exist that just uses all the traits.
I honestly think you just have to change the reflection code to just be like to look in traits also type deal.
Yeah.
Because I do some things, but I feel like that's like not
are
that
we
hard.
Communicating clearly about what I'm saying about the component class?
Yeah.
Are you picking up all of this vacuuming going on right now?
I wasn't until you said it, but no, I'm not.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no.
There's a ton of it going on.
Okay, I think your voice got a little quieter.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna get right up on the mic.
Don't get up on the mic.
Okay.
Because you've been back the entire time. So.
Sure. So are you picking up the idea that I'm picking up about like the component class?
Yeah, you're saying keep the component class as is, but everything in it put inside a trait so that the component class that people are extending just uses that trait.
Right.
So that in a model
class
you can
still
pop,
exists and it still gets used like that.
But you can just pop the trait in a model directly. Yeah.
Right.
And when you're checking to see if a class or an object is a Livewire component, you're checking for the existence of that trait.
Correct.
not the existence of that class in the
Right,
inheritance
right.
hierarchy. Yeah, which is, I mean, it's good to go. I mean, it's honestly, that wouldn't be that difficult. And then you could tradeify the model. There's some things like this arrow ID, there's built-in properties that might collide with like, you know, model IDs, your model ID.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few things that I think would be a little wonky, but yeah,
Pretty good.
pretty good, pretty good, pretty cool, pretty cool, pretty
Pretty good.
cool.
But yeah, I'm excited. It's about to be the weekend. I'm about to spend all weekend building this game again, which is what I did last weekend. And it's my new weekend thing to do is to build this game all weekend. It's so fun. You're welcome to hang out if you'd like to. I've got designers. There's 2 designers in our group
Sweet.
and a product manager in our group.
Yeah.
Like we've got professional people who make things
Right.
working on this with us, so that's cool. So I'm the only developer, but we've got like my buddy Walter, who's like a big time lead feature designer guy at Dropbox. He's in here, and then my buddy Grant, who's also like interaction designer and stuff. Just cranking stuff out, man.
That's sick,
it's pretty
dude.
cool.
Pumped.
Pretty
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. What do we at here? What's our time?
Oh, it's time, dude. 1:35.
Time? Woo!
Oof.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
All this canoeing's got my neck all hurty, and they're gonna see it on YouTube now.
Yeah, I've been seeing you stretching.
I got some issues here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Deke. Well, it's been real.
Yeah, let's cue that outro music. Dump. Hell yeah.
All right, and now I gotta. We're still live here, Decol. So
Whoa,
don't
YouTube,
take your shirt off
how you
just
doing?
yet.
How you doing?
And then we're gonna stop recording now.